Welcome to Noobshido Game Podcast. I am your host Steven, and joining me today again is Albert, and we are going to talk about Kamen Rider Revice Episode 4. Not enough love, a dangerous demon is born. How are you doing today there, Albert?
I'm doing good. Bought a bunch of stuff today, and Steven's seen all the pictures of the things I bought this weekend. But I think the highlight right now is the Gundam Mouse that I picked up at the local computer shop I went to today.
Yes, that's awesome. Like the Gundam Mouse. I always wanted this from Republic of Gamer, was it?
Yeah, Asus ROG. The Republic of Gamers. It's the Impact 2 wired edition. So they don't have a wireless one, unfortunately. Overall, the mouse is good. It's better than the one I had before. This is kind of considered like one of the lower end mice. It has a decent sensor, but it's not high end by any means. But I'm not really gaming super hard, so it's kind of perfect, and it's much lighter than my previous mouse. So I'm really happy with the purchase.
The mouse is the RX-78 color scheme, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, it has the RX-78 color scheme, has the Earth Federation symbol on it. It actually, I think it notes the Gundam. Okay, it just says Gundam and Earth Federation on it. But yeah, it is themed after the RX-78.
It's awesome. I know they have a mouse pad, also same color scheme as well.
Yeah, it's the same color scheme, and it has the Gundam's face or head on it. It's okay. I am actually looking for a desk mat more than a mouse pad. So yeah, I'm gonna be looking out for something like that. And I'm debating, do I want like a really big one because I'm gonna get a new desk soon, or do I want something with RGB? But it's jury's still out on that.
Desk mat is definitely the way to go. Like that's what I use, and I I love it. Like it's to me, it's just better than mouse pad. But now you need to at least get the monitor as well. I saw that monitor the other day, um, and at the same probably the same store you went to, Memory Express,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Yeah, and the monitor looks awesome, but a little bit on the pricier side. So
It's yeah, no, that was the thing about the whole line of the Gundam Asus product line. Uh, Everything was just like punching way above the price point, and even then, like I think out of everything, like the monitor was good, but it wasn't $900 Canadian good. That monitor normally goes for around $600 or so, from what I know, or 600 or 700, and it was going at 900. And the only thing that was really kind of well worth it, I believe, was the GPU, the RTX 3080. But even then, it was overpriced just because the Gundam branding.
yeah, definitely. Like you're paying more just because of the branding. I never seen the Xeon version though. I've only seen the Gundam Earth Federation
Yeah,
version.
so the Xeon one is based on the Zaku, and it's on their tough line. I think their tough line is not as it's not as good as their ROG line. But most of the stuff I saw was good. The only like major complaint I had about the Zaku line was that the RX-78 motherboard was Intel, and I mean, I don't get me wrong, Intel's good. I really like Intel, but of course, most people will know it's overpriced to get an Intel chip. It's much more cost savvy to go with a Ryzen. But the only way you can get a Ryzen is if you get the tough board, and the tough board is Zaku, and it's not as good a board. And that was the only major downer. But the cooler looked good. The I think they had a GPU. I could be wrong. And they had a case. I know they had a case for the Zaku.
Yeah, they do. It's like a red case. Really nice. I've seen it online, but just never seen it like on in store. You probably know it already. Tamashii Nation announced, I think, the web exclusive for the Kamen Rider Evil SH figure art.
Oh yeah. I remember that. Yeah, you told me.
Man, it looks awesome. Like I really want to get it, but It's just so pricey though. Like if you look at like these site that you can order from, like if it's an American site, they will have a price, but then at least it's free shipping. Like if you live in the state. For us ordering it, there's no free shipping anywhere. We had to pay almost like half the price of the figures just for shipping. Any web exclusive that we order, it will be in the upwards of like probably like 100, at least $120 or more Canadians, might even up to like 130 or 40s with nowadays the shipping is so much more expensive. And it just makes it so hard to justify getting one figure for that price.
No, I agree. Ordering collectibles right now is really tough in Canada, especially since before even if we were importing anything, Canada has these fees that we normally have to pay, and then of course conversion on top of that. It became it was difficult and still is difficult to be a collector. We usually would like kill for a chance to get something more locally if our shops were able to get them.
So far, the last few time I ordered stuff from Japan has always been they only ship with like DHL, and there's like no other choice.
Oh yeah, I hate DHL. DHL's not the greatest for shipping.
Yeah, they're so pricey. And SH Figure Art, don't get me wrong, I love SH Figure Art, especially the Kamen Rider series. More than $120 for one figure. It's just way too much.
No, I agree. It's really tough to justify something like that, especially when the figure, if you go to the States, it's probably closer to about $80.
Yeah, like most of the web exclusive are like 80 or $90. I've seen even some like 100 like US dollars, but
Yeah.
if you go to Big Bad Toys and stuff like that.
All right.
Anyways, enough about toys. We should get back on track to talk about episode 4. Original air date was on September 26, 2021. And today we're recording on February 13th, 2022. And that's for the writer for episode 4. That hasn't changed, of course, is Hanta Kinoshita. Director is the same as the last episode 3, is Taruki Sugihara. And the action director is Jun Watanabe, and special effect director is Hiroshi Busuda.
On the episode, Iki is still we start off with Iki and Daiji. They're arguing because Iki still refuses to sign the Phoenix contract. And we see that growing tension between Iki and Daiji, especially since the last episode, Daiji, he was very frustrated with the fact that he couldn't become a writer. Was that the last episode? Yeah, I think it was. Anyways, and at the Dead Man's base, we see that Julio Ortega and Aguilera discussed about the revival of Gift. And in the background, we also see that Ayaka is the one who had staged the kidnapping. With that being said, we kind of go through and we learn the reasoning behind why Ayaka had done what she had done. And we actually learn a little bit more about what the Dead Man's plan is with Gifu. So, yeah. So that's the basis synopsis of the episode.
What were your impression of episode 4?
I think it was good. There were certain things about it I really didn't enjoy. So if we're starting from the top down, I really liked the continuing story between Iki and Daiji. That's a really good point, and it's not overplayed. It's not the main point of the whole episode, but it's something where keeps you wanting more and keeps you moving through the Kamen Rider series. We learned a little bit more about Gifu and how he needs 6 sacrifices, and you need the more advanced stage 2 contracts in order to become a sacrifice. So that's why the Deadmans are contacting other humans, and it's probably safe to guess that those 3 are not full demons, or they're part human as well. And they're 3 who are looking for 3 more to kind of go through that. I liked how they play like Ayaka and the relationship between the mom. I thought it's a little rushed though. I think like it's really a really quick glimpse in what their relationship is, and how, you don't really get to know like how it left that way, and if it was a really loving relationship to begin with, because it looks more like Ayaka and her mom had a really good bond before the sister came in, and then all of a sudden when the sister became an idol, like that bond was very splintered. But we really kind of had to guess at it because they don't really talk about it much. And then there's these random inserts of Iki and Ayaka, just like they're just in there as students, and I don't know if they'll go any further. Actually, I do. I've watched it. They don't go any further than that with this relationship. So it was really awkward to kind of just insert those things and not have anything to do with it afterwards. I do like how they handle the sister relationship. They don't go too much into it, but it's like how she handles her sister, just like dangles her from the building. I'm like, oh wow, this is serious. Then, especially you don't see that a lot in any show where the kid is just dangling and the sister is just holding her by the neck. I also did not like the CG in this. It was a lot of the action scenes, and it was not my favorite part of the show. I thought the choreograph was good, but the CG was still not my favorite.
The CG is not the best like CG we've seen, which is expected. Saber was a good example, like I mentioned before. The action sequence I like. I like where the story is going. Now, what exactly the signing the contract with Phoenix means, I don't know. I think hopefully they will explain some more later on. You know how they show Iki actually disappeared or erased from one of the family photo? That happened right after he signed the contract. I don't know what you make out from that.
I think that is very much like it's supposed to be a plot point where it keeps you kind of wondering and trying to figure out why something like that is happening. And I think that uh, with that particular point, it kind of is supposed to keep you around and figure out why this is happening, and why Iki is disappearing from the particular pictures. And nobody else is happening to either. It's specifically just Iki, and Vice notices it. Did Vice notice it this episode?
Yeah, he noticed it, but he didn't seem concerned. He actually laughed about it.
Yeah,
So like it makes me like it looks like he know what's happening,
yeah.
but I don't know if it's because he's evil, that's why he's laughing about it, or is this something that is interesting to him, that's why he was laughing about it. That I don't know, but I do like how how the episode ended with something
Yeah.
kind of leave you hanging and want to find out more about what's happening.
But like going back to the kind of the beginning, we'll talk more about the Iki kind of disappearing. But we're going back to more to the beginning. We do get a little bit more information overall on the episode. So we learn that Gifu is an ancient demon, and he needs 6 sacrifices, and it looks like he's gotten 3. It looks like there's 3. So there is, of course, the 3 generals: Aguilera, Ortega, and or Olteca, or is that how you say it? I don't know how to say it. I
Yeah,
think it's
well,
Olteca.
good enough. Yeah,
And Julio. And
yeah.
they're looking for 3 more, and that's where we're being introduced to phase 2 of the contract, where they're not just creating a dead man's demon; they are becoming the dead man's demon, which is interesting. It's definitely interesting, and I wish they would have lingered on a little bit more and kind of kept it a little bit more of a mystery. Of course, you later on realize that the rider kick can kick them out of it, but I would have liked it if they would have like led that on for a couple episodes. Uh, it would have just kept people guessing. Can they be saved? Can't they be saved? But for the essence of this episode, they had to kind of solve it here because anything more would be just too long, I guess, for a story. But yeah, no, it looks like the dead man's can be saved with the rider kick, even if they sign a more advanced contract. Um, I Steve and I were talking a little bit before the podcast, and it's kind of interesting how the three generals are able to switch back and forth between forms, and
Well,
we don't.
right now, yeah, like right now, I think we only know Ultica and Julio can change
Yeah,
at this point. Yeah, we haven't seen whether or not Aguilera can change.
yeah,
They haven't mentioned that so far. Um, but yeah, like you're right. Like even though Aguilera said once you go to phase two, there's no turning back. But you see, already saw Ultica and Julio can change back into human form at will. So
and then we also see in the episode that George has a massive Kamen Rider collection,
yes, it's pretty impressive collection too.
which I wonder if those figures are things that are out and you can get right now, or if they're from the vault. Because I know with shows like these, they usually have a vault and they have a record of like a ton of props. I don't know if Japan does it. I probably with the toys they do, but I don't know about like the props or if they're just recreations for the show specifically.
Right. Yeah. No. I didn't really pause the screen and take a closer look at those. But you're right. Yeah. It's possible that those are could be the actual toys, or they could be props. I think the average figure arts are definitely the toys that you can buy at the like at retail. So
Yeah, but no, yeah, no, I mean, I think that was very impressive, and I would like to say I'm a uh, like action figure collector, lock like, but I'm not. I'm definitely much more of like color replica and statue collector overall. But I think you could appreciate that collection a lot more than I can, Steven.
oh yeah, yeah. I would love to have collections like George. And it was also interesting that you can tell George is just not your typical scientist. He's like working out and all that. He's like a buff scientist and also a toy collector. That was interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, watching him like work out and stuff like that, he keeps active and he keeps his mind active. And I'm a I'm a big believer in doing both if you can. And no, yeah, it definitely adds an extra dimension to George himself. Uh,
This makes me think whether or not they will make him into a rider some point during the show.
I think that would be interesting, but I also feel like that's not fair. I mean, why didn't he take the Revi driver and just become a rider himself? That just, but he's also kind of nuts too. I mean, he's a weird dude.
Yeah, he's definitely a weird dude in this show, but I kind of like him though. But he's an interesting character, definitely.
And then the CGI fight scene. Yeah, we really need to talk about this. It's bad.
Yeah, like the action that is fine, but it's just the CGI, right? Like I don't mind that act. I like the action sequence where he's diving down the building, and kind of jumping between like vehicles and all that. If the CGI would have been like higher but more budget to it, I think it will look awesome. There's nothing wrong with the action, the sequence of it. It's just the CGI makes it look cheap, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I've reiterated in the several other podcasts, and I probably will in the future episodes. The choreographing is pretty good. It's not bad by any means. It could be better, like of course, like it always can be better, but this is pretty good for tokusatsu. But the CG is not great, and I think in this show, less is more. And you could like I understand that like you want to put an emphasis on the new forms and what they can do, and it's probably much more expensive to do something more practical with that kind of scene, especially you want to convey the type of like scope the powers give for the rider and the enemies. But it very much distracted me from the show. And it pulled me out where I was like, wow, this CG, it just completely feels like it was inserted in and it doesn't flow. very well within the episode, and that's why I just didn't like the CG. It broke the episode up, and it made you not think about the story or how the characters are moving forward. It just was like, oh, good story, and then boom, fight scene. Oh, this is really bad. Why did they do it this way? Like, and you're distracted by how bad the CG. You're just focused on how bad it is instead of actually how it was choreographed. I watched it the second time around. The choreography is really good. I like it, but yeah, originally it really broke the episode for me.
Yeah, I do hope that in the future episodes they use less of these CG fight scene. That would be great if they use less of this.
Yeah,
But otherwise, in terms of we don't see any new driver in this episode.
yeah,
We did see the. I guess we talked about this before we started recording, whether or not the hovercraft is considered a remix or not. But yeah, it turns out like Vice actually turns into these hovercraft. Iki can just kind of freely act on his own, or use the right hovercraft when he needs to. So that was a
So
little different
so how do
than
you feel
before.
about the form, like the pteranodon form? What do you like? Do you like it? Don't you like it? What do you think of Vice's form?
Pteranodon's form, I definitely like the headpiece a lot more than the body. The suit itself doesn't really appeal to me as much. It's not ugly by all means, but it was all right. I think it's okay. Like it's not like something that what I thought is like, whoa, can't wait until they release a figure of this form.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I really like the helmet and the mass piece of it. Um, I don't like the shoulder pauldrons or whatever you want to call them, like the shoulder pieces.
So shoulder
On
pad, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I think it makes him look a little bit more bulky than he needs to be.
It's like he
Um,
has two shoulder pads.
yeah,
That's what it
ju-
looks like.
yeah, but
That's
I think
supposed to be the wing, right? It's supposed to be the wing.
I think so. I think it's
Yeah.
supposed to be wings, which I mean, you could have just done something on the back, I guess. But I mean, I get where they're kind of going with that. I think it's a little bit extra.
Mhm.
I don't know about Vice's form about this. This one is I get why they're doing it, and it's weird that they just don't have a vehicle they transform. Uh, but like Vice's head is the handle of the vehicle, and that is weird.
It's like underneath the handle.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I
no, I
don't
think his
mind
head
it.
is the handle. Like his head is the part that pivots, I guess.
Yeah, like I'm looking at the pictures right now. I much prefer Vice turning into some form of a vehicle rather than Vice and Revice doing weird poses together.
I I wish I don't mind that. I personally I think the reason why I don't like it is just because the CG is so bad so far for the remixes. Um I wish also some of Vice's forms were better designed. It looks like they put a lot of budget into Revi, and like changing his form up and giving him like different parts to his suits so it doesn't look exactly the same. But I then think they kind of get lazy with Vice, and he just has something like they just kind of take his body and then they stick him with a different mask and then kind of give him some extra weapons and then call it a different form. I think that is definitely lazy and a little bit more about selling toys than actually designing a good suit for the character.
Yeah, so far I'm not a huge fan of any of Vice suits. So, but you're right. I agree with you on that. How about the Deadmans? Anything to you in terms of the design? I thought
Uh
they look weird. That's
It's
why.
very odd. It
Yeah,
definitely is really odd because,
yeah.
like, I'm looking at the phase 2 for Kong Stamp, and it looks nothing like a gorilla. And I don't know what they're trying to get at with the form, if it's supposed to look like that, or if it's like, because like if you look at like Ortega or Olteca's and Julio's forms, they're supposed to be, I believe, Olteca is supposed to be a squid,
Mhm.
and Julio is a wolf. And
Yeah,
there is kind of there is kind
a
of like a design,
resemblance. Yeah,
yeah.
with
And this
no,
one
you're right.
sort of does too, but like it's very loose, and they're not
Yeah,
exactly like that. It looks like they're very much like mutated Resident Evil almost style, like
yeah.
mutation.
No, no, you're right. Yeah, yeah. It's okay. I think the dead man's look. It doesn't look impressive or anything. It just looks like weird. And I like how it was George that told Daiji how to separate the phase two Deadman form. That was interesting that it was
How
George.
he knows that is, you know what? I like. How does he know that?
There's
That
something about George that, you know, that we still don't know. Like,
yeah. And that's one of the things I really like about the show so far, is that they don't just spoon feed you everything, and they do make you think about like, oh hey, like there's these little things here and there. Some things are more blatantly obvious than others, but it really does make you kind of think about the episode and how it fits in the overall world and where it's moving, and kind of gets you more engaged with the show and the episode in general.
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I definitely like what they're doing with the show so far. Like they don't tell you everything. They always leave you a little bit at the end, like to think about. So Albert, what would you rate this episode for?
So I gave the episode a rating of 3 out of 5. I like the episode, but I think it's a little bit more on par with the first two that we saw. The CG fight scene really pulled me out of the whole episode, and made me focus more on like how bad the CGI was than to focus on the storyline with Kamen Rider. And also, like we mentioned, I think we mentioned, assuming this recording went through. Uh, I thought the mystery of Ayaka should have been later in the episode than to be revealed so early in the beginning of the episode. So that's how yeah, that's my rating for that.
As for me, I will rate episode four a 3 out of 5 as well. I like where the story is going, but the rider form and also the, if you call it a remix form, um, it was okay. It didn't wow me or anything like that. The action, I like the fight scene, but again, like you said, Albert, the cheap CGI really pulls you out of the show. So hopefully they will use less of that CGI in the future episodes. For me, episode four is a 3 out of 5 as well. Anything else to add there, Albert?
No, I don't have anything else to add.
Well, then that is the end of our episode four review. Thank you guys for listening. Please leave us a comment or a like for the video. And if you are listening to this on Apple Podcast, leave us a review. And stay tuned for next week when we talk more about Kamen Rider Revice. Bye now.